guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning follower, thanks for watching and thanks for sticking with us. My name is Rain, and if this is your first video on this series, I would advise you to watch the first one first just to understand. However, this is a sequel, a continuation of the series I started last, which I had explained how it's a vulnerable and personal experience that I've just thought to share because I believe it's for a reason. So yes, back to where we stopped out. I really want this video to be fast, by the way, so I'm going to try to rush more in this video. I spoke about this series is pregnancy, postpartum, and loss. I'm doing it in 3 sections because literally that's how the phase went, and I'd explained my pregnancy phase, which was phase 1. If you're here to watch it, please do well to watch it and share to someone that you think it might help. That just share and let 1 or 2 people get encouraged, because yes, I mean, I can't exactly say how that video is encouraging yet, but we would see. So yes, as I said last in my video, on the 10th of July 2024, my beautiful baby boy arrived, and everything they had said was gonna be wrong with him during pregnancy was actually there. So they had said he was gonna have a hole in his heart, and he had a genetic condition, and how did I feel? I don't know. I mean, my baby was there. It didn't really matter, but it did change how I felt, that like everything I expected was gonna be false became true. I don't know. I can't put into words how I felt. Of course I wasn't happy, but it didn't change the fact that I loved my baby. It was, I mean, it was so adorable, and at that moment I just said, okay, it might not have gone the way I wanted. Like I said in my previous video, I'm the kind of person that as much as I pray, okay, God, let it go this way. If it doesn't go this way, I'm just like, God, at the end of the day, let your will be done, and like let it favor me, even if it's not the process that I was hoping for. So I would say that's where I've gotten into that. Okay, oh God, I prayed, I believed, and yeah, this is what it is. I just hope that, I mean, I won't lie, I was still hoping for a miracle. I was just really, I don't know where I was just really still trusting God that everything will be fine. And I remember one time when myself and my husband were praying, I was like, okay, God, they've given all of this, they said all of this diagnosis, they said all of this is what the reality is. Just let him believe in the opposite of all of these things. Like, let him be so good, let him be so healthy, let him be so perfect. Like, or just hold us through this journey. I think like that was just everything I kept praying about. Just hold us through this journey. Let it still end in praise. Still prove yourself. I couldn't think of how the end result would be at that time. I mean, again, as per it has come out, so I couldn't say, okay, God, let the result change. I mean, I still believe the results could change, but I just said, God, just take control and just help us. So yeah, that was where I was after I had my baby. And I mean, postpartum is postpartum. I have a baby, I have to, it was a normal baby. I mean, he having a hole in his heart didn't stop him from being, it was like a normal baby. Cry when he needs to cry, sleep when he needs to sleep. The only difference, which I don't even think is just, I mean, I know, well, this one was peculiar because of his heart condition. The only difference was I found it difficult to breastfeed. Not like difficult to breastfeed. Well, for him, because I mean, breastfeeding is work for children because you have to like latch well and like drink and all. For him, because normally they had explained that because of his heart condition, his body overworking, he will get tired easily in feeding. He won't want to feed much. They will prioritize sleeping over feeding, something like that. Like, so I mean, in the early weeks, I noticed, I mean, he will try breastfeeding, but then it won't stay for long, and of course you see that it does, like, he's tired, but you know that he hasn't had a good like intake. So they explained to us that some kind of things with my experience. So I don't want to go into details of like so many long stories. So I switched into pumping. I would call it exclusively pumping. I mean, I put him on the breast then just so that he's still bonding, and maybe when I know that he has fed and is full, and even if he just like plays around, at least he has eaten well. So, but feeding was more of exclusive pumping, and thankfully I had a very good supply, so pumping was not an issue, like breast milk was not an issue. And so I just switched into pumping, and he used to take it from the bottle. I wasn't happy about, but at that moment I had to prioritize what was best for my baby, and I knew that I needed him to eat. And if he wasn't eating so much because of the work of breastfeeding, then I didn't mind doing the work, and I mean making it more easy for him. So like I said, I switched to pumping, and it kind of helped. He would eat more than normal. And in terms of adding weight, they had already said that it was going to be more difficult for him to put on weight, because like fat is retained calories in the body. Like for him, his body was burning up the calories. His body was having to overwork. His heart was literally having to overwork to do so. It was burning off calories, so there wasn't like really room for retaining of fat, of calories to lead to fat. So yeah, they said it was going to be difficult for him to gain weight. I mean, these are things that they already told us, and of course when we had our appointment after baby was there, they re-explained to us just so that we would understand and all. Fast forward to like after I had my baby, which was like about 3 weeks. That was ending of July, going towards the ending of July. That particular day, I just noticed that he wasn't. By the way, my baby's name was Oluwatoni. Yeah, so in case of time when I mentioned Tony or Oluwatoni, you know that I'm referring to my baby. So there was a day that Tony just like was really sleepy. I mean, it was still in the newborn stage, so all you expect them to do is sleep. But regardless of how they sleep, they wake up to feed, right? Wake up, feed, and probably sleep back or something. But that day, that particular day, he was just really sleeping. He wasn't bothered about eating. He wasn't waking up to eat. We tried to wake him up to feed him. He wasn't interested. If you tried to put it in his mouth, just like probably refused it. Something it was more about sleeping. So we're like, okay, let's still leave him. So we allowed him to still sleep and like that. I mean, I won't say I was worried at that time. There was a little bit of worry, but it wasn't a big deal. It was just okay. Some days they don't feel like eating. You know, when you're just like thinking of okay, excuses for what can be happening. So that particular day, like I said, he didn't wake up to eat, to feed as much. And then in the evening, we kind of had to force him to feed, because we know that okay, he had gone hours without eating properly. So we kind of woke him up. We had to change his diaper. By the way, we tried to do all of this during the day as well when he had not woken up, but he wasn't still having it. So that evening, we changed his diaper just to wake him up, and then we tried to feed him. I think I was the one feeding him, but I was bottle feeding him. We tried to feed him, and he had a reflux. He vomited everything through his nose, which, I mean, I know I've seen of babies having reflux sometimes, but that one just didn't, it didn't look normal. And for the fact that we know that he's been really sleepy that day and he hasn't eaten, and the way he had the reflux was just in a way that gave signs that something was wrong. So immediately we called 111, which is like number for the ambulance for children over here. We called 111 and they asked a lot of questions like that. They said they're gonna come over to the house. So we waited and ambulance came. So they checked him. They said okay, I mean, it was still breathing, it was fine. And then they checked his oxygen level, which is like the oxygen sats normally should be about 100% for a normal person. Your oxygen saturation should be 100%. But for him, well, at that time we didn't even know about like what the numbers, because at that time we've not had our first like proper appointment with the cardio team. We're to have a cardio appointment in the coming week where they would examine him more properly, let us know if he needs medications that will be taken, and everything that needed to be done, because it was still like 3 weeks. It was about 3 weeks, if I remember, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks plus thereabout. So we had like some appointments before in some other places, but not like examination of his heart. So they checked him and his oxygen level was not so good, and they shall lifted him and tried to start giving him oxygen, and they asked questions, asked various stuffs, and then they just said just to be safe to take us to A&E. They asked us, so we told them about his medical record, which is that he has AVSD. So they took us into the hospital, took us to A&E, and then they tried to examine him properly, and so that his oxygen level was actually low, and then so they gave him oxygen. So I had to give him oxygen, and then they said they're going to admit us, that they'll just support him with breathing since his oxygen level is low, and then they'll see us, a doctor will come see us or something. They came, they examined, and they saw that he has bronchitis, which is the normal cough and catarrh, cold and catarrh that a baby would have, or a baby sometimes have. But he wasn't coping well with it. Like I should have mentioned that he had a cold, but we just assumed it as like the normal baby cold and the rest. So apparently he wasn't coping so well with it, because cold comes from infection, so it's still like a cold infection. So he wasn't coping well with it because of his heart condition. So they just observed him, and they gave him some drugs or something, and then they had to feed him, but they were going to feed him with a tube because they wanted to take off the work of him having to take the milk, like walk and just like suck the milk, because they couldn't afford him to do any much work again at that point. So they're going to give him the milk through his nose, through the tube. That was my, like, I think about 3 weeks baby or 2 weeks baby, because it was just like almost after. And okay, that's fine as long as he has like he's feeding. So they put in the tube, they set him up. Long story short, that particular visit in the hospital was a bit short. So because we were in the hospital already, the appointment we were going to have with the cardio team, they just came down to meet us where we were. They had admitted us into pediatric unit and all. They had come down to examine him, do a heart review, do everything. We there said, okay, the function of the heart was a little bit lower than expected, which is expected based on his condition. And they would have to give us some medications to help him. That it was because his heart was overworking, his body was very weak. That's why he was sleeping. I wasn't bothered about eating. And then, and after a few days in the hospital, we went home. I think we spent just about, it wasn't just because, it was a new baby. I was still like trying to heal up from delivery and all. So, but it was, compared to what we have gone through, it was just about 3 to 4 days. I don't remember exactly now. And then we went home with the medications, and fine, okay, he started feeling back. We went back home, and just 2 days after, he had a relapse. I think that particular one was he was crying. He was crying profusely, like it wasn't that he stopped feeding. He was crying as if he was in pain. And then I could just see that something was wrong. I know they say something of a mother's guts, and I can't say how much that is true, because it is true. It was not so well that day. That was like 2 days after we've come back from the hospital. It wasn't so well again. So we called 111, and they took us back into the hospital. And at that point, because it wasn't like it was struggling, you could see. And then when they took us to A&E, they were like, no, this time he's actually very sick, that he's struggling to breathe, that if they don't act immediately, he can die. So they had to put a breathing tube down him to help him breathe. And I remember that day, it was me, my sister, and my husband that went into the hospital that morning, and I was crying because you could see from their faces that it was serious, that it wasn't okay. And I was crying, I was screaming, and then they explained to us that they would have to do all of that, put a breathing tube down him, help him breathe, all of that. And it was just so frightening to hear, and I was so sad that this boy is not even up to 1 month, and all of this is already happening. Long story short, that particular day, they put us in a room while they went to try to sort him out, and do everything to make him better at first before they'll come and get us to see him. And when they were done, they called us upstairs and explained that he's now stable, he's now on the breathing tube, he's now on a lot of sedation, so he's asleep, he's under like anesthesia, something like that, he's not awake, he's this. And then they made us understand that so his heart actually stopped for 4 minutes and they had to do CPR to resuscitate him. I was like, I'm lost. Yeah, like, so his heart actually stopped beating for 4 minutes, but he came back. So when he tried to put the breathing tube down, that was what happened and all. That boy came back, he's fine, he's settled now. He's on medications, he's all, they'll take us upstairs to see him. And I remember entering the room and I saw at that time it was over 3 weeks because we spent his 1 month in the hospital, I remember clearly. It was almost 1 month. And I saw my 3 weeks baby with so many wires all over his body. They had put a very big injection in his neck. That was where all the medications were going in through his neck. And it was on so many like medications, so many wires all over him. And I remember I broke down. I cried so much. I was so sad that it's too little to be going through all of this. And I mean, God, all I prayed for was just let this journey be easy. Even if they said this is the result, I mean, you are God. So I was down, but yeah, I got myself back together and we were in the hospital. That was, we were in the ICU. So for that day, they were not going to feed him for 24 hours because they needed his organs to rest. After a while, like that, they shall explain to us all it entails in what he's there for and all, which was also to support him with breathing. It was all still down to his heart trying to cope outside the womb, because I mean it was like just weeks after he had been born. So yeah, it was still trying to deal with it, and apparently they were still trying to get the right amount of medication that he needed to cope with it, because they had given us some medication that first time we went into the hospital, but apparently they had to like do some adjustments and all. So long story short, it was in the ICU for 5 days, and he started, they fed him with the tube. I remember the first day they started feeding him, they fed him 1 meal per hour. I don't know if you guys know what 1 meal is. 1 meal was what my baby was taking for an hour. So in a whole full day, the first 24 hours, he had 24 meals of milk. Anyways, he spent 5 days in the ICU that period, and we were discharged from ICU but to the cardio. He had his 1 month birthday in the hospital. It was my husband's birthday because he was born on July 10th. My husband's birthday is August 10th. So it was 1 month, August 10th, and it was my husband's birthday, and we were in the ICU. And it wasn't anything that I looked forward to. But thankfully to the nurses that were there, they were really nice. They made us a card that I did. We were able to wear a t-shirt that said, I think I'll put it here, that said happy birthday daddy. And we got some balloons. My sister bought him a balloon of 1 month old today. I shall try to just make, because if you know me, you know how much I love to create memories. I'm not going to allow the devil rob me of my joy. So I kind of did memories, did some balloons in the ICU, and just like took some pictures of his 1 month. It wasn't what I wanted. Yeah, a good thing was on that day of his 1 month birthday was when they took out the breathing tube. I remember I prayed that morning that God, I need them to be able. So it's a lot of explanations in how they're able to remove all of these things. And like I said, I don't want to bore you up with the medical stuff. So they had said if he had coped well for the remaining days, they were able to wind down the oxygen, showing that he didn't need as much support. So they were going to be able, if they're able to wind it down totally, it shows they could take out the breathing tube side, and they were looking at taking it out that day of his first month's birthday. So I prayed to God that morning that, God, please, I want this tube out. That should just be his gift. and God answering prayers, they were able to take out the tube. So it's the pictures we took of him. He still had a breathing, a nose, a cannula, a breathing cannula, but not a breathing tube. So he went to a nose cannula on that first month, and it was, I mean, it was one step closer to discharge. So yeah, we got out of ICU after 5 days, but we went to the cardio ward. So we're in the ward. It was a lot of back and front. They tried to also regularize the medications he was going to be on. He started feeding. He actually recovered well, but it took a while. It took a long time because they didn't want to rush anything. So long story, we were in the hospital for 2 weeks. 2 good weeks we spent in the hospital. 5 days in the ICU, and 14 days is 2 weeks is 14 days. So 5 days in the ICU and 9 days in the ward. So that was a total of 2 weeks. But yeah, it wasn't a good time. I kept on pumping because of course that was what I was even doing at home. So I was pumping, and that was how I was feeding. And my husband was also in the hospital, but he had to resume back to work because he was done with paternity leave. And I mean, somebody has to work to pay the bills, so he was working, but he worked in the hospital. And it wasn't a good time. It was a tough time. Let's not forget that I just had a baby, so I was still going through postpartum. Like, my body was still healing. That was like 1 month after, because like I said, we did 1 month in the hospital. But glory to God, we got out of there. We were discharged, and I remember I got home and I cried, but I danced. I praised God. I was like, okay, thank you. We are back home. My baby did not die. The same baby that they said his heart stopped for 4 minutes. We're still here, and I danced, and we continued life, and it was fine. Everything was okay. The only thing was difficulty in adding weight, and then he was on his medications, and the medications were so much. And I remember initially we used to not laugh, but the way he used to do his face, where you give him one particular medication, Captopro, when you give him that particular medication, you can tell that it is bitter. The way he used to do his face, that used to make us laugh, because he just used to do his face like it was just really funny. And one particular day, my husband was giving him the medication, and the way he did his face, and he was sad, and my husband burst into tears, and he was just like, how would a small baby be having to take so much medications like this? Why is it? And I cried. Like, it just dawned on us that a lot of things were happening, and this was what I've prayed, and I was the one that convinced and said no, none of this was gonna happen. But my husband, being the best person a woman can ask for, fortunately, I'm the woman that has him. He's the most supportive. He never for once, I mean, that man is just a gem. But yeah, we were living and just taking it one day at a time. He was on his medications, he was feeding. We had regular appointments just to check, and the plan was for him to have a surgery between 3 to 6 months, depending on how he had weight, because they needed him to add weight so that they can do a surgery and he can recover better. So we were on some medications for his heart, and then one medication as a supplement, which is collagen. He was taking collagen just little by little to add weight. It wasn't really doing much. It wasn't adding weight, and I remember it was really draining me. Like, I was really sad I wasn't putting on weight, and they needed him to be about. They didn't give us a specific weight, but they had said the bigger the better for him for surgery. So for every time when we went for appointment, they weighed him and they were like, okay, he's still on the small side. They are just hoping for him to get bigger, small. But he was growing so beautifully well. He was so smart. Tony was an intelligent baby. It was like every time when we went to an appointment, don't forget that they had said he was going to have a genetic condition. Apart from the medical thing of his heart, from that they kind of expected like delay in growth, stuff like that. But for every time when we went for his appointment, they were all impressed with how he was doing, how he was like general milestones of early milestones you would expect in children. He was meeting them and doing so well. 2 months great. We were home, we didn't go to the hospital, he was just on his medications, we are just going on checkups, appointments. We had loads of appointments, it was crazy. 3 months it was still fine. 4 months it was all good. So as at when we had gone into the hospital one particular time and they had spoken about his weight, they had offered the option of starting him on some high energy formula which could help with weight. So formula that like have maybe high fat in it, which could help in his weight. I mean, I say something, I'm not one to be rigid on. I mean, I think every woman would desire to do the best for their child in terms of, oh, what is exclusive breastfeeding, that's what you do. But some people are not able to do due to so many reasons. And I say something, as long as your baby is fed, that is the best. As long as baby is fed and okay, that is the best. If you're doing your very best and can do, that's the best, literally. For me, I had a good milk supply. Like, milk was not my problem. My freezer was stocked with milk. But yeah, so they had offered that I should introduce some high energy formula to help him add weight. And I didn't want that, of course, because normally you want breast milk for a child up to 6 months is what you desire. And then if you're not able to do it, let's say, okay, because you don't have enough milk, you have to supplement or something. I had enough milk, like I had so much milk. So introducing formula was not like an option I really wanted at that time. So I think after 3 months going to 4 months, when I saw that he wasn't actually adding weight, it needed him to be big to have the surgery, I just told myself that Nuju, what's most important for him right now is for him to add weight and be able to do his surgery and be fine. So I spoke to my dietitian, because the dietitian assigned to us. I said, okay, what's this all? So after 4 months of doing exclusive breast milk for him, I just thought about it that, you know what, okay, I think at this point I need to accept and just give it to him. My husband too was fine. All we needed was like what's best for baby. I wasn't happy about it because I mean the circumstance at which I had to do that, not because of there wasn't enough breast milk and all. So after 4 months of exclusive breast milk, I started introducing this SMA formula. So we're going to mix it with breast milk. He wasn't going to take it alone. I mean, depending on what he would take. If you take it alone, then take breast milk. But you see my baby, the first time I gave it to him, he didn't drink it though. Second time, he just kept spitting it. When he tastes it, he'll spit it, can it come? So we started introducing a small. We'll do 90% breast milk, 10% of the formula. So we started introducing it bit by bit for him, so that, I mean, the taste is not so different from breast milk and he takes it. I won't really say it did much. Well, it was just for a few weeks I tried it for, because it was 4 months when I started it. It was 4 months as at November, right? August, September, October, November. Yes, it was 4 months, November 10th. So we started the SMA at November, as is 4 months, and then so it was approaching 5th month, and I remember we went into the hospital December 5th, I think. I remember a Friday in December, first week of December, we went to the hospital. He had an appointment for his heart, his cardio follow-up. So we had gone into the hospital. So we had an appointment on that Friday. We went to our cardio appointment and they checked him and they're like, okay, he's getting there. That was in December, that they think they can start considering for him to have his heart surgery. So she was like, okay, yes, that they can start preparing. That what they'll do is they'll have their board meeting. They mentioned him already. That time when we were admitted in the ICU and went to cardio, they presented him to the cardio team, spoken about, oh, he will need a surgery. They've scheduled everything, but depending on how he's scoping is when they'll, like, what they will do. So she was just like, that Friday when we went for the appointment, she was like, she'll go back to the board and let them know, okay, this is how he is now. She thinks they can actually start preparing for surgery for him and it was fine. It was fine that they just had a little bit of cold, so it was like a bit, what they call this, was not visible. His nose was not clear. You know when you have catarrh. So, and because of, so they give RSV vaccine in this country. RSV is a winter virus. So they give children, yeah, and they recommend it more for children that have any respiratory issue, like because of his heart. So we had been taking RSV vaccine every month just to help alongside his normal immunization and all. So that particular day as well, we had to have his vaccine the following week, but they're like, since we're already in the hospital, they can just give us the vaccine. So we went and we took his RSV vaccine. And I told the doctor about his code. She saw it, she was like, yeah, but she thinks it's still fine. That boy, if he gets any worse or anything, we should just like ring the hospital and all. So we went home on Saturday. I saw that he wasn't really coping well with the cold. He was coughing. He was starting to cough on Saturday, and it was cough that was disturbing him. Like, and you could see that he was not comfortable with the whole cough. Like, you could see that he was struggling with the cough. And also on Saturday night, I was thinking it's something okay, he has a flu. We'll just call the hospital to give us a drug and something. And we went. So on Sunday, I called the GP and they arranged for an appointment. We went, it was GP, we went to out of hours GP because it was even a Sunday. But because of his history, they always want to be on the side of caution. They don't want to take risks and all. So the lady wanted us to go into A&E, and I know that once we go into A&E, it's just like you know, like all the times when we go into the hospital, it's just always one thing or the other. So I wasn't looking forward, but I mean, we just felt like we'll get into the hospital and then we are able to get maybe medicine or something, and we'll be out of the hospital. So we went into the hospital and they did the test, and they actually found that he had RSV infection. RSV is like flu. It's like literally flu. That's what it is. It's a virus that causes flu. But of course, because of his heart condition, he wasn't coping well with it. So they said they will need to give him oxygen, and they said they need to give him oxygen, and I was like, oh, not again. Which kind of thing? I mean, we've been at home for at least after his first month. We've not been admitted in the hospital since up to now. So at this point, it was going to 5 months because that was early December. And I mean, it beats every month. It becomes an extra month every 10th of the following month. So we went into the hospital on the 8th of December, Sunday. That Sunday was 8th. So it means the appointment was on the 6th because it was Friday. So Sunday was 8th. So we went into the hospital on the 8th of December when they tested that he had the RSV, and we were like, okay, you just need support with oxygen. RSV is harsh on children, especially for him with his heart condition and all. So they admitted us in normal ward at first. And he was on oxygen. They just needed him to maintain his sacs for a period of time without him dropping it, which means he doesn't need support, and then we would go home. But let's just say he was having a lot of dips. We were in the hospital that period, and then I was just really like, I want to go home. It was going to be 5 months on December 10th. And I was just like, I don't want to be here for his fifth month. God, I don't want to be here for his 5th month. I need you to do something. And it got a little bit down, but then they explained that RSV has its peak day. So on the 3rd day or 4th day or 5th day, it has like an hip where like it becomes worse, then it comes down gradually and the person becomes better. So for every time when it was having like a gradual increase, they said, okay, maybe it's the peak day, and that is it. On the 10th of December, which was his 5th month, instead of us to be moving forward, took a step backwards, and I don't want to even just drag this. On that particular day, on the 10th, they said they had to have a breathing tube down, that he was sick. He was very sick, and they needed to take him back to the ICU. And I was just like, God, no, not again, not again, not again. I'm not going to the ICU. And on the 10th of December, which was the beginning of the hardest time of my life, for my entire life, he moved into the ICU, and he had to have a breathing tube down. And yeah, I think I'll stop postpartum series at this point, because the next point was it became traumatic, and that was what led to the last part of this series, which is loss. So yeah, on the 10th of December, we moved from the normal ward into the ICU, where he had to get the breathing tube down, and yeah, we'll take it from there in the next series, in the final part. Thank you guys for watching. It is well. Thanks for watching. If you've watched to this level so far, I want to say a very big thank you for following me. I mean, talking about it is also helping me to deal with it. So thank you for listening to me, and I hope to see you in the next part. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye.